For this project, you're going to need a pencil, a piece of paper, crayons, and if you would like, some watercolors. If you choose that, don't forget your water. We're going to begin with our paper in portrait. Now you're going to start with a pencil. I'm going to use a marker so that you can see it. But again, use your pencil so you can erase. Beginning at the top of your paper, add a curved line that looks like a smile. See, there's my curved line right at the top, like a smile or an upside down rainbow, or the letter U kind of stretched out. Now we're going to connect the two sides with an even bigger U or an even bigger curve. I like to do it in two parts. So starting at one end of my first curve, I'm going to come way down and stop. Do the same thing on the other side, all the way down and stop. And there's the body of our baby owl. Now, let's add some feet. That's super easy. We just need to know how to draw the letter W. One W over there and one W on the other side. Now we have 2 feet or talons for our baby owl. Let's give him a branch using a horizontal line. When you get to that foot, hop over it, go between his toes if you need to, and keep on moving. Your line does not have to be perfectly straight. Whoops, there's the foot, gotta hop over it. And over, and off to the end. Make another line underneath. These are called parallel lines when they run next to each other. Oop, there's the foot, gotta hop over it because we are overlapping. The branch is behind our bird. Right? Finish off your branch. And now let's work on a face. First we need to add that beak. And I like to use an upside down triangle with a curved base to do that. Use a triangle or whatever else you'd like to add a beak. You can be creative. Owls have really big eyes. So draw a big letter C and then connect it with a backward C to get your first circle. Do another one and another one, and there you go, 2 big eyes. Don't forget the pupils. Again, the pupils are the black part of your eye. Use smaller circles inside for that. I like to add a little tiny semicircle, which is a half circle, for some highlights in my eyes. And let's take a second to color those in. Remember, the pupil is the black part of your eye, and we used smaller circles inside of larger circles to create those. And I used a little semicircle or a half circle at the top to add a little bit of highlight. Finish coloring in those eyes, and then we will move on to some wings. Now to add our wings, we're going to use 2 more curved lines. This baby owl is full of curved lines. So on one side, draw a curve from underneath the eye down to the bottom, and another one. And voila! There's your baby owl, and we can start adding patterns. Now, you can use crayons and watercolors, or just crayons by themselves. I'm going to do 2 different sides to show you. One side will be crayon and watercolor, the other side will be simple crayons. But we are going to use patterns. Okay, first, hold on, let me add a few more little feathers over here. He's kind of a fluffy baby owl. There we go. So we're going to be adding patterns to our owl. And patterns are anything that repeat. When you're just using crayons and want pattern to show, start with a lighter value of one color. Remember, value is how light or dark a particular color is. I took this blue crayon, and I'm using very light pressure to make a light blue value on my wing, because I want to add purple polka dots for my first pattern. Again, a pattern is anything that repeats. Polka dots are a great example of pattern. So there it is in just crayon. Now, if I wanted watercolor, I would use kind of the reverse. First, I would use my purple polka dots. Crayons are made out of wax, and when you put water on wax, the wax pushes it away. So if I fill my wing with purple polka dots, And then take my blue watercolor and wipe your brush on the side of the cup. Don't make a mess. Get a little blue watercolor, and when you paint over that crayon, it will show through because it's made of wax. So those are two different ways of creating pattern on your owl. Let's try it again. I'm going to do the top of the head with just crayon for pattern. I picked this nice light green, and I'm going to shade him in, and you can pick whatever you want. This is your art. You be creative. But for this one, I got this light green, and I want to add, let's see, some purple feathers. Again, adding pattern. Pattern is something that repeats. Pattern helps us make texture. On the stomach, I'm going to add these green feathers. I'm going to do this with crayon and watercolor. So I'm adding thick crayon marks with my green crayon. And then I'm going to come in with my watercolor, wipe it off if you got too much paint on there, and paint on the stomach. Now be careful not to rub too hard, because if you rub really hard, you can rip your paper. One more fun trick is to add some stars. So see how I took this white crayon and I'm running all around my owl? I'm drawing stars. You can't see them at all yet. This is a fun watercolor trick. Go all around with your white crayon and then paint over it with watercolor. Do you see the stars? So again, adding crayon to paper and then painting over it with watercolor will push that crayon to the front. It will show through the watercolor paint. This will not work with tempera paint. It will only work with watercolor paint. So if you have this and want to give it a try, go for it. If you don't, just color with crayon or colored pencil or even marker. Or you can just change the value of a pencil you're working with. Make sure you add lots and lots of detail. Fill your page with lots of color. I don't want to see a blank piece of paper. Have fun, be creative, add tons of patterns, and as always, I can't wait to see what you make. One more important thing to remember. When you're finished, your paper is going to be wet. So either let it sit somewhere where you are working or move it and set it onto some newspapers or something that you don't mind getting paint on until it finishes drying. So again, if you used watercolor, give it a little bit of time to dry. Try not to move it around too much because you don't want to rip that piece of paper.